That's right. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we find ourselves on the cusp of Disney's big venture into the world of streaming, even courting a war in the process, we thought it'd be nice to stay up to date on the ever growing catalog and rule on what's a must or a bust on Disney Plus. All right, Dragon. So I sat last week out. The female Mandalorian breastplate armor was just it was too much for me to deal with, man. I just like my poor little brain couldn't take it. I sat it out, buddy. But I'm back, and Dragon, tonight we are going to be dealing with one of the most highly anticipated events to hit Disney Plus, arguably since the launch of the Mandalorian itself. Dragon, do you know what that is?
What is it?
It's the Taylor Swift documentary. Oh shit, son.
This is what I
Oh
get for asking
boy.
why.
Da 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 da. Sell. All right, no, I'm just kidding. All right, no, we're talking Ahsoka, Dragon. Obviously, we're talking Ahsoka. You know, ever since the word go on the Mandalorian, this is one of the characters that people have been desperately wanting. Her and, of course, Boba Fett. Boba Fett, where? But Dragon, we got Ahsoka, and oh man, oh boy, did we get Ahsoka! Oh boy, did we
We didn't
get
even have to wait
Ahsoka!
for her. We got her like the top of this thing,
Right,
man.
right, like right at the top. Oh boy. Dragon, here's the thing with this episode. I think this episode is simple in a good way. It's very much what we were expecting, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's very much kind of like how you would expect Ahsoka to interact with Baby Yoda. We get some revelations. We get a name, Grogu Dragon, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Uh,
Grogu.
Grogu.
Grogu. Okay, I'm sorry. Grogu would make it sound more like a Super Saiyan. I'm sorry.
Uh, yeah, that's the yeah,
So it's Grogu.
yeah, Grogu. From what I understand, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we've got a name. That's big. Grand Admiral Thrawn. We'll go over that. Where do you want to start, Dragon?
Well, first of all, just to kind of all encompass here, maybe in lieu of like a final thought, just up front to talk about the thing as a whole. I think it's beautiful how basically the best way I could summarize this episode, of course, is Dave Filoni's big episode, both written and directed, much like, of course, he had done last season on a couple episodes. This is beautiful how Filoni was able to essentially do a Clone Wars episode in live action. Kind of a nice little crossover of the two beloved
Excited
worlds
for live
via,
action Hondo.
via Ahsoka, you know.
Yeah, I of course, Dragon. They did such a wonderful job keeping this under lock and key. The look.
Oh yeah. I still can't pinpoint like if because here's the thing, it looks very practical in like the head, the thing with her head, but I don't know.
Mhm.
Maybe it's CG, maybe it isn't. It looks. I mean, it just looks really well done practically. I gotta say that. The point being, yeah, it looks
I don't
looks
even think about it. It's so good that I don't even try and like think about it. Honestly.
certainly. And so let's just bridge into that. So let's just cover the Ahsoka, because I'm sure people are waiting with bated breath. Like, what did they think of Ahsoka? I'm going to tell you what I thought of Ahsoka. Rosario Dawson, she's perfect as definitely. I mean, she was already just kind of perfect in casting. I mean, she's perfect as the post Rebels Ahsoka, which Tiki, I'm loosely familiar with Rebels. I think I watched the
Uh
first
huh.
season. I don't even know if I got all the way past the first season,
I
but
mean, thank God Ahsoka didn't have any breastplate armor, right? That's all. That's
but
all we care about here. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry.
you're killing me with this
I'm
breath.
sorry, Dragon. I'm sorry.
You weren't
God
even
damn.
here last week, and you ended up getting it in there. I thought, anyway,
Well, I
so
need to get. I need to double compensate for last week, Dragon. All right. I need to get it in there while it's still somewhat relevant. Anyways.
okay, the point is, Rebels featured an older Ahsoka, like right after kind of Clone Wars and kind of like the New Hope era.
Mhm.
So basically, the lead up to A New Hope. That's the Rebels' whole shtick. Like it's literally like the Rebel Alliance forming and such. And yeah, I mean she's perfect as kind of like this kind of the more wizened kind of post Rebels Ahsoka. Basically, as her as our first foray into what a Jedi looks like in the Mandalorian is great. It makes sense. Links up perfectly from what I can tell. Again, haven't watched all Rebels, so with a grain of salt, all my Rebels talk here. Haven't seen it. I'm gonna get to it, folks. in the middle of some other binges right now, but eventually I will get to Rebels. But yeah, it's it's kind of a tease at a Jedi in hiding and very Kenobi-esque. It's kind of a tease of what the Kenobi show might promise. She's got a very kind of like Kenobi demeanor of like the guy who's been kind of hermetized Jedi. She's very Ronin-esque.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Very
Yeah,
wandering.
that opening sequence, especially Dragon, it's doing the thing that we've kind of been seeing more and more this season, which is framing the good guy from the villain's perspective as the horror movie monster.
Yeah, yeah, and it was again a really effective introduction. Here's the cool thing. They kind of you see the origin of it in the last season of Clone Wars, which is kind of really cool. Because I'm gonna guess here, I'm just inferring here. So she has the white lightsabers. You'll notice.
Uh,
Now, if I recall, traditionally, I think she has
is
like blue.
how she got them a story for another time.
Well, no, I'm saying it's in the last season of Clone Wars. They show you how she
Okay,
got
fair
them.
enough.
Funny. No, my point is so my point is, if I were to guess, I'd imagine in Rebels she might have had white lightsabers and nobody knew why, and then Clone Wars going to bridge the gap as to the origin point for him, which is really a sweet
Makes
origin
sense.
for him, which I won't tell you because even if you jump in the Clone Wars of the last season, you might have a few surprises that won't
Oh,
be
I'm gonna jump into Clone Wars eventually, Dragon. Again, much like you and Rebels, I'm just trying to find time.
right. But yeah, I mean, it was like the point being like I'm sure of course Ahsoka's always been a fan favorite, so I'm sure when people saw the white lightsabers and then just saw her in new kind of Flung Grotto, it's like, oh my god, this is everything I could have hoped for, and I'm sure it sounds like the Ahsoka super fans would be really pleased. I'd imagine because Ahsoka's always kind of a great character, and we got a great actress for her. One of the big kind of the tide that raised the ships of the Netflix shows to a degree. We got Rosario Dawson. You can't
Oh
do
my
any
god,
better.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Rosario Dawson is one of the she is a stream queen, Dragon, I would call her.
That she is. That she is. So she had a really powerful moment this episode we should talk about. I think one of the best moments of performance and kind of a big highlight, big flagship moment of the episode was that powerful moment of her refusing to train the child because she sees kind of the affection that he has for Mandalorian, which, as we know from a certain other guy, love leads to fear leads to anger, and of course, anger leads to hate and all sorts of other trouble. Basically, in other words, fear leads to anger leads to Anakin, which he doesn't want party of that again.
Yeah, yeah, seeing older Ahsoka reflecting on Anakin's the line I believe is I've seen it happen to the best of us.
Mm-hmm.
Great line there, of course. But of course, Dragon, what she's really saying is like, we can't break up the duo, man. Are you crazy?
Well, that's kind of like the in quote. That's kind of in the parentheses, like the show talking. Like,
Right,
no,
right.
we need Baby Yoda for the marketing. We can't. See, first season I could have bought them leaving Baby Yoda, delivering him to the planet, then moving on or something. But not at this point. No, no dice. We need that baby, man.
Yeah, I mean, especially with all the seeds that were sowing with him in terms of the mythology.
Yeah, which I'm going to touch on in a mere second here. But another thing to kind of contemplate here is think about it. She's seeing this as another potential Anakin situation, but not just an Anakin situation. It's an Anakin who is the species of Yoda, which, of course, Yoda apparently species very force sensitive, very powerful. So imagine if Yoda went the path of Anakin. That's
Oh
like
man,
Anakin. That's like Darth Vader times 10. That's non bueno. That's not good.
yeah.
So speaking of revelations in past, like we learned the origins and the namesake of Baby Yoda. So we finally, after all
I
this build
wasn't a
up,
fan of this. This I think was maybe a little bit. I don't like the fact that he's been around since the first Fall of the Jedi.
well, he is 50 years old though.
I understand that, Dragon. I understand that. I just think it's super convenient that the Jedi Temple just happened to have like a little baby Yoda that they were training that we just never saw.
Well, I mean, again, we saw him training kids. I don't know. Maybe it stood the reason,
I
and
think it's a.
presumably,
I I would have just preferred it to not come from the Jedi, just because we've seen that time period covered so thoroughly in other media that to me it's hard to justify. Like, to me it feels like a plot hole. It feels like just a gaping, like, well, where if Baby Yoda was with the Jedi on Coruscant the whole time, why did we never see him? Like,
well,
wouldn't that be a big deal?
Well, possibly we don't have all the answers yet, but additionally, I would say again, like there's a period. The idea, if you time things out, there's like a 20-year period mixed with like roughly like 27, 28 years have passed since all we've seen of Star Wars. So the kid predates that 28 years.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is there's probably a story there we haven't seen, so maybe it's not. I don't think it's as cut and dry as he was just at the temple with the rest of the Padawans.
They
There might be something a little
and they
special
hit him
there.
away during Order 66.
Yeah. Like
Okay.
I'm saying maybe there's like a story with Yoda that we haven't got. Like, what do you think Yoda's reaction to a child from his race is when we don't see a lot of Yodas around? That's what I'm saying. There might be something there.
All right. All right.
I'm playing wait and see on that. But importantly, though, we just kind of we time into okay. So this kid, he's been kind of in hiding, which kind of adds a little bit of the fear factor within him. You know, he's just trying to to Grogu. Thank you, Atomic Beast, Grogu.
Oh,
Which I mean, if you want to like boil down the cutesiness of the name, it's like Goo Goo Gaga, but like Grogu. So.
I don't mind the name, but it's gonna I'm gonna echo a lot of Star Wars fan sentiments here. We're stuck on Baby Yoda, man.
I mean, Favreau had to know that
It,
going into it. He
it's
knew
gonna
like if we're
it's
gonna
gonna
build
take
up
a
the
while for this to stick, and like you said, I think they know it.
exactly. I mean, Favreau knew that going into this. Like, I'm sure he's not gonna be like peeved. Like, why don't they call it Grogu? Yep. Let's see. So let's talk about the town a little bit. So this kind of this forest-based little walled-up
I mean, like
town
you
here.
said, Dragon, it's very Kurosawa esque.
Absolutely, yeah. The Kurosawa town and the setup. It's really. I love the architecture. I love like
Mm-hmm.
the little area that the magistrates held up in like a little koi pond and everything. Looks
Kind
great.
of reminds me of like a teeny tiny miniature version of like a bossing say.
Speaking of
You
which,
know,
Atomic Beast in the comments,
yeah,
Grogu sounds like Roku from Avatar.
a little bit, a little bit. Whenever I see Roku in Avatar, all I think of is a Roku stick.
Every time I see that Roku stick, I'm thinking they stole that from Avatar Roku.
Right.
But yeah, like the little small town, kind of very very good, very throwback, very Star Wars, and again like a little more than the average Western. It's the samurai Western, which is pretty cool, you know.
Sure, which is something like that's the thing, Drag. I feel like Star Wars media, like Galaxy's Edge and even Mandalorian season one, leans way more into the sci-fi Western side of things than the sci-fi samurai flick side of things.
Sure. So it's nice to kind of keep it fresh a little bit. Well, fresh by reaching really deep in the film archives, so to speak. But
Uh,
So speaking of which, let's start the magistrate. So we got Magistrate Elsbeth and Lang, played by a familiar face to the Terminator fans out there. It's Michael Biehn. Michael Biehn, that guy.
yes, yes. Um, by the way, Drag, we probably I don't think we addressed it on the top. We probably should address an unfortunate passing that just happened.
Well, I was going to save it for memoirs, but if you want to, it's
I feel like it's appropriate just because it's Star Wars and it's all connected to Vader and everything. So
well,
we
yes,
lost,
folks. So
yeah, we lost David Prowse today, which is very, very unfortunate. Of course, David Prowse, the man behind the helmet dragon, the man who is physically embodying Darth Vader
certainly, and
on
again,
set.
how bittersweet is it that we get like literally like the day after? I think it happened
I know
Saturday.
that's why I want to address it now, Dragon, because it is very bittersweet. Yeah.
So bittersweet. The moment we get Ahsoka, who of course is all tied into kind of the tragedy of the Darth Vader story. She knew the man behind the mask essentially, and kind of the older man behind the mask has passed. It is sad. Of course, you and I we cover the whole documentary on David Prowse, the whole "I Am Your Father," and we knew kind of the tragedy he kind of suffered behind the scenes of Lucasfilm. Essentially, cut his big scene uh, through kind of some unfortunate circumstance of thinking he
Uh,
leaked the whole "I Am Your Father" plot line, which is just tragic. And it's. I mean, he was getting up there. I mean, he had a lot of issues. Like being a performer for many years. Arthritis, a little bit of dementia. And the guy he been put through the ringer. But again, tremendous work, tremendous output, and it's a shame.
all right, yeah, we'll definitely talk about him on memoirs. I just wanted to bring him up now, just because, like I said, it very much does tangentially connect to Star Wars in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. Anyway, so yeah. Anyway, so yeah, here's a little thing on the rewatch I caught about the magistrate here. Of course, another magistrate like Grief Karga, like how we're bringing back the magistrates, kind of cool, like kind of the guys who run the small towns. You know?
Right, right. I'm glad you mentioned that distinction because it's kind of like this show is building up magistrates like a Western show would build up sheriffs.
Yeah, exactly. They're like the mayors of the western towns or
Uh huh.
something. Like, 'cause, you know, if you use like the marshal thing we've gotten so far, you have the guy who owns the town, then you have the marshal who's the sheriff, which would be like Cara Dune or or the, the the Cobb Vanth character.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, though. Apparently, Elsbeth here, this magistrate, she I don't know if it's just a throwaway line or not, but it sounded really cool. She is a big cog in the wheel that gets us the whole Star Destroyer. She's like one of the architects behind the Star Destroyer fleets.
Really, I missed that line.
Yeah, because it says
That's
like
interesting.
she had a big hand in building the Star Fleet, which implies the fleet of Star Destroyers to me. And presumably, I think the idea is like again like the big basically the big guys behind the Empire without a job. So
Oh
again, they're kind of
no,
in the warlord territory, being the idea.
Dragon. Did they? Are they talk? Are they possibly referring to the fleet of Star Destroyers underneath Exegol?
No, 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 no.
Hopefully not.
Anyway,
Because I would rather just pretend that those just don't exist. I'd rather live in gleeful ignorance of
you know,
those.
it's so since you bring that up though, different, just tangentially, we kind of confirm in this episode that, for all intents and purposes, Baby Yoda is not a clone, which some people thought he was. So we kind of confirmed that
Uh
here.
yeah,
Again,
yeah.
I don't subscribe to the whole Yoda Yaddle theory, as simple as it is, because, and again, there is a story there with Yoda which we don't know yet, but by the same token, if if Ahsoka's whole point is that again the whole Jedi's aren't supposed to fall in love and give into have like these strong relationships, that implies that Yoda can't really settle down with Yaddle for a kid. So that implies that's off the table to me. So I don't know. There's still a story with Baby Yoda we still haven't covered yet. But again, wait and
Uh-huh.
see territory. All right, let's see. Okay, big thing. Also, one other cool thing with the Magistrate, she has a cool Beskar spear, which
Oh,
is
the
awesome.
spear. Yes, yes. Dragon, I gotta say, that spear is one of the more tempting rewards that Mando has come across in his bounties so far, don't you think?
I know, and I love that I got to
Like,
keep it at the
it's
end.
funny, it's kind of like, as much as we love Ahsoka, we're just, the audience is at the same time like, that's a hell of an upgrade for Mando, man. I'd love to see Mando rocking that spear, baby. All right, yeah, I'm glad you bring up that spear. Very badass.
Absolutely, and again, it's kind of I like the climax again. Our kind of Kurosawa climax here. We have like the Ronin Jedi versus the Beskar spear, which I love that we reestablished really awesomely, and
Oh, are
how
you kidding me,
Mando.
man? The climax, I think, is honestly one of the best. I'm gonna say it. It's better than any of the lightsaber fights in any of the three sequels.
True, but again, not exactly a lightsaber fight, but sure, it is
No,
really
but
cool.
I'm just saying, just in terms of combat, man, just in terms of just pure combat involving a lightsaber. I mean, this is it. This is exactly why we love lightsaber fights to begin with.
It does. You know what it gives hope for? It gives hope for their reaching back to kind of what in A New Hope, what the original lightsaber battle was
That's what
intending to
I'm
be. Like
saying, Dragon. That's what I like. That's why I like it so much. This battle kind of felt like if they redid A New Hope, to have the same kind of context and impact, but just in a modern day sensibility with the filmmaking.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. So you look at A New Hope, that lightsaber battle. Again, it's emotionally it still holds true because of the ending of it. The ending of it's big, obviously, but you got to remember it's pretty simple. It's not exactly like Empire. It's not exactly like no, we're not. It's not a more. It's not a elongated sequence. It's pretty quick, and like most samurai fights in real life, pretty brief, violent
Right.
and brief. And that's kind of like what if we had a little bit more, if we lingered a little more artfully on how brief the fight was in A New Hope. That's pretty much what we did here. Like what if it was like you felt it a little bit more, even though it wasn't brief, like a fight's supposed to be. And again, even though you don't get all the like you don't see half like the intensity that's going on, but you feel it though in the conversation from the outside. Or your side might win, my side might win. That whole
Absolutely.
thing. It's
Yeah,
great.
definitely a highlight of the episode for sure.
Surely, but I also love that we reestablished, in that scene, but also earlier, like when Mando and Ahsoka meet, Beskar lightsaber proof. Very nice. Yeah, a little cap shield action going on there. A little
Oh yeah.
adamantium, little vibranium. I love it. Okay, so big thing. I'm sure people also. Atomic Beast makes a point again. He says it does. Grogu's parentage doesn't matter because obviously Mando is Grogu's father figure, his
Well,
kind of
yeah, I
surrogate
would say
father. I mean,
I'm
absolutely, yeah.
very comfortable to say that. Yeah, sure,
Yeah, yeah,
sure.
sure. I'm just saying because everyone's going to be asking like everyone's been fixated on where Baby Yoda comes from, which isn't really the point. But again, it's
I
still a
don't.
point of
Yeah,
interest.
like I said, I don't really like. I'm one of those Star Wars fans where I'm not. I don't get into the minutia of like who, like who's related to who. I just kind of like the overall, the grand scope of the mythology. So,
Sure. I
yeah,
mean, I didn't even
just
need the
the
kid's name,
existence.
honestly.
Right?
I
No, I
mean,
didn't either. I don't think anyone did, frankly.
because again, we're always going to think of him as Baby Yoda. It's like the action figure days of Star Wars. It's like Ponda Baba. He's Walrus guy, but he's Ponda Baba too. It's like it's nice to
Ponder
know a name.
Bobble.
It's nice to know a name, but you know the guy because he's the Walrus guy.
Right, right.
He's the guy who
No,
gets his.
he's the you'll be dead guy.
No, no, no. The other guy's the You'll Be Dead guy.
Does the you'll be guy dead guy have a name? A
Yeah,
fancy
well, yeah,
weird name?
Doctor Evans. He's a medical doctor, Doctor Evans' son.
Dr.
Which is
Evans isn't Dr. Rich Evans? Alright, no, I'm just kidding.
anyway. Okay, let's see. So another big thing people are speculating about, and this is a big detail, at least for Ahsoka. Some people are speculating maybe Ahsoka gets the spinoff. Like, who's going to get the spinoff? Everyone's on favorite. And again, there could be multiple spinoffs. Who knows? But
Hamill!
what?
Hamill.
Oh, Hamill. That's what you're saying, right? So of course,
That's the
I'm
one that nobody is talking about that I think is still somewhat plausible.
I'm sold on that. I'm sold on Hamill in any show. Give him a show. We need more live action Mark Hamill stuff. We do.
Dragon, I mean, think about it, man. Like we need to see that we need to see some of the Jedi Temple stuff. Like, I don't know. Like, there's the exciting thing about this series is it's kind of righting the wrongs of the sequel trilogy. So it's like I really do feel like if we're gonna go there with the Snoke of it all and with the cloning and all that bullshit and really legitimize that, then I think we can take a side trip to Luke's temple, no problem.
I entirely think that's possible. But it was brought up to me, and again, I can't claim credit for this, but it was brought up, and I kind of agree with this. That there is kind of a nice opportunity with Ahsoka that you do have, and that if you were, I've always been an advocate of like this whole idea. If we ever did a young Luke, it should be Sebastian Stan. That'd be awesome.
I don't
You know,
really think we need Sebastian Stan though. I just think we can de-age Mark Hamill.
well, I mean, yes, we could. We did that in the Rise of Skywalker for sure. But I'm just saying
Yeah,
it would be really pricey though. That's what I'm saying. I mean, there's budget, then there's budget.
it's worth it. It's worth
Look,
it.
look. What I'm saying is on the if you did an Ahsoka show, and basically if you explore Ahsoka more, perhaps, or even in Mandalorian, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Keep it grounded here. I'm just saying if we ever did see the post Jedi, uh, Luke Skywalker again using young Sebastian Stan. I don't know. It'd be kind of cool. Plus, it kind of kind of fill these two characters who had a really big connecting point. Anakin
Do you think
Skywalker.
Sebastian Stan could really like play Luke Skywalker though? Like we know he looks like him, but
I mean, I think he could pull it off. Again, I'm saying like, I think he could pull it off. I don't think he could pull it off like tomorrow. I think he could pull it off though.
uh,
I think if you put the work in, he absolutely could do it. He's a good actor. Plus, again, I believe he's heard this whole thing before. And he's always been like, yeah, sure, I'll do it if they ask me to. So I think he's been primed for it. But again, if we just do like a show of Luke any period where he jumped all over the place, maybe a little bit of both, or even just like we could use Hamill for the majority of it, absolutely, by all means. I'm just saying, like, if we did something now with Ahsoka, or if we put Luke in this timeline now without doing a super expensive de aging effect, Sebastian Stan might be an interesting way of going about that. But anyways, this all transitions us into the other big thing, the big hanging chat, which people are speculating like Ahsoka spinoffs and everything from. So Ahsoka's looking for a guy. Grand Admiral Thrawn. No, it's not Eobard Thrawn, kids. It's Thrawn with an R. So, Admiral Thrawn, Tiki, do you know anything about this guy, or would you like me to tell you the little I do know?
the only thing I really know about him is that he is easily the guy that most people thought Snoke was going to be. People thought that Snoke was going to be like Grand Admiral Thrawn or Darth Plagueis the
I
Wise.
think
Those
we
are
all
like
were
the two big.
subscribing to the Plagueis thing with
Those were the two big theories. But I heard Thrawn's name thrown around a lot too. And
I didn't hear Thrawn because of a very specific reason. Thrawn's a blue guy. That's kind of why I never really put,
remember, Dragon, correct me if I'm wrong, but Thrawn has more of a presence in the Knights of the Old Republic, right?
Well, he's they brought him into like quote unquote they brought him into the canon within the Rebels show, so that's when they kind
Okay.
of made him official. But before that, he was in he was in this Legacy thing. I don't know if you like Star Wars Legacy. Is that ring any bells?
Yeah, vaguely, yeah.
It's only like story set after Return of the Jedi, which is pretty much written right now. But again, kind of the stuff that were novels and everything. He might have been in the old. He might have been in some of the Republic stuff. But I'm saying he was like the more explored in like kind of the stuff post Jedi, which we're in now. So this is kind of like a happy medium of, again, this show so far, we've been taking things from the extended universe stuff that weren't quite canonized. Now we've canonized them, like Cobb Vanth, for example. He's in the books. We brought him in the show, and it's been great. We kind of did that with Thrawn here. We put him in that timeline. He was in the books, and also kept in the Rebels stuff. So here's the Rebels stuff. Here's what you need. Very simple. So he was the big baddie of Rebels. Even though Rebels did have Darth Vader in it, he was like he was kind of the main antagonist for those guys. He's kind of blue guy, red eyes. He's the main villain who essentially, when I was doing my research for the holiday special we do with Hondo and Aka, this guy he kind of ties in. He was in one of the Hondo episodes, and he was also in the last episode of Rebels, which essentially I don't know the particulars, but Admiral Thrawn, the big bad guy, meets an ambiguous fate with our main young kind of Aladdin-like Jedi, Ezra Bridger, who's the other fan favorite short of Ahsoka. Again, so Ahsoka knows this kid. Again, they meet each other in Rebels.
I've definitely heard the name.
So the point being, these two guys disappeared mysteriously. I don't know if it was like a wormhole or something. They went down with the Star Destroyer and they weren't seen ever since. So, and again, so that's like Hondo knew this kid as well, but he never knew what happened to him after this. The point being, this kid's been missing ever since, along with Thrawn. So I think the idea is that Ahsoka's looking for Thrawn, hearing that he's survived, and if she finds Thrawn, perhaps she finds Ezra.
Gotcha.
So again, but I think the money's on. We're probably going to see Ezra before we see like a young Luke Skywalker, or like a younger.
Yeah, I would say
Skywalker.
so too. Yeah, easily.
Which again would be pretty big to see Ezra in live action. That's another win. Okay, so where we leave off in our story here, in terms of like what happens with the baby, what Much Ado About Baby Yoda of it all. Mando, it seems to me Ahsoka is, kind of giving a wink in that she's embracing the emotional connection. Even though as a Jedi, she says, no, I can't train because that's the way I was brought up. Basically, she's subscribing to the Obi-Wan Kenobi way of doing things. No, you can't. We can't do the emotional thing because it's going to lead to another Darth Vader. We can't do that. But she's saying, perhaps you find your own path with not so many words. I think she's kind of going for here. It's like she ultimately knows that he's not going to hand this kid off to a Jedi at the end of the day. I think she knows this.
Sure.
He has to make that choice, and that choice is going to be through knowing that he did everything he could, therefore, so he can complete his task and everything, and make the big choice, which means she's sending him to a Tython, I believe the place is called. Tython, the big ancient Jedi. This is like one of the core worlds. This is a big deal too. The core worlds are big. Basically, this is a little Jedi temple. It'll place the kid in a little stone. It'll send out a beacon for all the other Jedis who'd be more willing to train him. They're going to come to him. But also remember, I was on the edge of my seat this whole episode. Thinking it was going to happen this episode. It's probably going to happen then. Moff Gideon has a tracker on the Razor Crest.
Oh, I thought for sure that's how we were going to end out the episode, Dragon. I thought for sure we were going to end out the episode with Mando coming back to the ship and Baby Yoda's gone.
Yeah, but that's the only if they didn't do it this episode, I don't think Ahsoka's going to be back quite soon. I think it's going to be Gideon's going to come to the big Jedi temple. I think that's where with his army, with this big powerful army he's got cooking up.
Yeah.
That's my prediction. Also, one last thing we got to talk before we get out of here: the knob scene.
Yeah. I'm
saying I always loved the knob, and I just loved that was kind of the big show of force moment of like, oh man, look at him playing with that. Well, that knob has so much emotional relevance. It screws up little ball knob gear shift thing, and they built such a bond there. And that was my big favorite visual moment of season 1. The whole when Mando goes to grab the knob and it's not there because he's thinking of the kid. I love the residents for giving that thing. All right.
So final thoughts. I think this absolutely lived up to the hype. I'm not to the point of like rolling over myself and saying best episode ever yet, Dragon. I gotta say I want to make the distinction here that I'm not at that point quite yet. Don't get me wrong, the episode's great. I just think that other episodes maybe got me a little bit more stoked than this one did, like the Bo-Katan one, for example.
And again, another Clone Wars centric one too,
Right,
which again,
right, right.
hard to beat the Clone Wars connect.
But I mean, this one, it's like if we're going just based on pure fan service here, I mean, this is easily the most fan servicey in a good way episode of Mando ever. I mean, easily. It's it gives you everything you could have wanted with, with a more grown up and mature and wizened Ahsoka in live action. Rosario Dawson, I don't think we've talked about it enough, but God damn, I mean, acting wise, it's just like we all knew she'd be perfect casting, and she is. It's like water is wet. It's like it's no big revelation here, but she's wonderful, as she always is in everything she touches. My favorite
Absolutely.
Ahsoka moment is right at the beginning where after that brief confrontation, Mando gets her to step down by saying Bo-Katan sent him, and then we need to talk. I hope it's about him.
Yeah. Again, I just love how matured she is too. I mean, think about this. Think about, of course, even you're familiar with that pilot movie they put out. The
Yes,
Clone Wars
I'm very
movie,
familiar with that movie.
and
Yes,
and her
where she calls Jabba the Hutt Junior Stinky, and she calls R2 R2E.
So, well, that's the point being, just with the baby hut, with like little Rota of the hut, like her having like the childish kind of dynamic with little Rota to now, where again, like, look at her having this really, she's analyzing the kid, man. It's like, I'm just saying, seeing her go that full circle. We kind of Dave Filoni legitimized Ahsoka and the baby, man. That's
Uh huh.
pretty fun.
All right. So, final thoughts on your end.
The final thoughts again. I really liked it. Again, I'm pretty much in agreement as far as, I mean, it's hard the top three this season. Again, it's been a really strong season. I think all the episodes have been pretty good in their own ways. Again, one and three have been really strong, and this is a big. Yeah, obviously, again, we've been really tactful in how we've been kind of like approaching the big stuff, and it's been going pretty well so far. I'd love to see Ahsoka pop up again this season. Don't think that's likely, but we got more seasons coming and
All
possibly some Ahsoka spinoffs. So I mean, hey. Let's get Rosario Dawson back in the makeup, man. She was amazing.
right. Well, that'll do it for us this week as we holster our remotes till the next installment calls for the draw. Mano y mano. Just Plus and us.
Attaboy, Grogu.
That a boy, Grogu.